This is a Mini Cooper SE, an electric hatchback that's not too expensive and not too unreasonable. Let's check it out. This is not the first electric Mini, but the first mass-produced electric Mini. In 2008, Mini launched the Mini E, and soon afterwards released several hundred units for testing as part of a research program. Selected clients could lease the car for 6 months. Mini collected data from 2 such stints and then sent the cars back for evaluation. The next phase of the research project was the BMW ActiveE, based on the 1 Series Coupe. And finally, with all the experience and data gathered, in 2012 BMW released the i3, a boldly designed electric city car. And now, the drivetrain developed thanks to the Mini E experience has returned to the Mini. In the electric Mini from more than a decade ago, the batteries occupied the place where the rear seats would normally be. In the BMW i3, the batteries were in the floor and the electric motor was in the back. In the new Mini Cooper SE, the batteries are also in the floor, and as a result, the car is 18 mm taller than the standard Mini. However, in order to keep the proportions right, the plastic cladding around the wheel arches is slightly wider. Other visible differences are the yellow badges denoting Mini's electric and PHEV models. And there is no exhaust in the back. I like the specially designed wheels that look like a British 3-pin electric plug, and yellow bits of trim generally fit the cool and funky lifestyle that the Mini brand represents. Under the bonnet there isn't much to see, but take the cover off and you see what looks like a washing machine motor in all its glory. And it's in a protective cage too. This motor generates 184 horsepower, just like the BMW i3S, but the Mini is slightly slower from 0 to 100 km/h. I don't want to say the Mini Cooper SE is slow. 7.3 seconds from 0 to 100 km/h and less than 4 seconds from 0 to 60 km/h means you're going to be one of the fastest cars off the line, and in city traffic you're not going to be driving very fast anyway. 270 Nm of torque is available instantly, and the only thing that's holding you back is the weight of this thing, which is about 1400 kilograms, some 200 kilograms more than the regular Cooper S. The Cooper SE performance figures are similar to those of its petrol counterpart and appropriately weaker than those of the JCW. Despite the extra weight, the steering remained very mini. It's still very precise and the car turns in very well. The only difference is in the suspension. Minis usually have a hard ride, hence the go-kart feel Mini keeps going about in its ads. Here, because of the extra kilograms, they decided to soften things up a bit. In the corners, you can feel the car leaning a wee bit, just like a Mazda MX-5, you know, before it's going to go sideways. Obviously, in the Mini Cooper SE, I did not attempt braking traction and going into lift-off oversteer. I'm leaving that for the JCW GP. You're not buying an electric Mini to race it, although every now and then you are probably going to give it a wheelie from the lights. You're not going to take fast corners either. It's more likely you'll be pottering around town, maybe going from the suburbs. Speaking of which, what's the range? Oh, that was a GTI. BMW gave the Mini Cooper SE much smaller batteries than in the i3. Mini has 32 kWh batteries instead of 42 kWh batteries in the i3. Mini declares average economy of about 15 kWh per 100 km and a range between 235 and 270 km. One doesn't need a Nobel Prize for mathematics to know this doesn't add up. 15 times 2 is 30, so we're missing a couple of kilowatt hours to even get the 235 kilometers, not to mention 270. This is the magic and the curse of EVs. You never know how far you'll really go, but it could turn out that you could get much further than you expect. Let me explain. Just like in the i3, also in the Cooper SE, you get something called one-pedal driving. As you start lifting off the throttle, the recuperation system sets in and applies regenerative braking. If you let go of the accelerator completely, the car will properly brake. Not an emergency braking, of course, but very decisive braking nonetheless. After a couple of hours of driving, you'll get a hang of it and you'll be able to judge the distance from the car in front, thus using the brake pedal will be reserved only for real emergencies. As a result, the Mini recuperates a lot of energy and the range visible on the screen right after you unplug the car is falling not as fast as you'd expect from the distance you've covered. That's of course under optimum conditions, which means city traffic. If you drive at a constant speed, there is no regenerative braking because there is no opportunity for it. And if you're on motorway doing motorway speeds, you will use energy much quicker than the 15 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. Having driven the car for about 120 kilometers around the city, on ring roads and on some B roads as well, I got less than 15 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, so there is potential for a good result. On the second day of filming, I didn't even bother charging when I saw my range was still about 120 kilometers after driving for about 60 kilometers on the first day of filming. Charging. From my home socket at about 2 kilowatts, charging will take more than a dozen hours. From an 11 kilowatt AC socket, charging to full takes more than 3 hours, and from a 50 kilowatt fast DC charger, an hour and a half. That's assuming you're charging to full. Charging to 80% is going to take considerably less time, as the last 20 points proportionally take the longest. Mini Cooper SE has the CCS or Combined Charging System socket, which means in one place it can take the Type 2 plug and the CCS fast charger. Meanwhile, most Japanese EVs use the Shademo standard, where the Type 2 socket is separate from the fast charging socket. Like in all Minis, also here the classic proportions mean the windscreen is at a steep angle and the roof starts far before the driver, so at the lights it's hard to see what color the light is. However, visibility to the sides and to the back is decent, especially since you can push the passenger seat all the way back. Because in the back there is decent headroom, but there is no legroom, especially if the driver's tall. You may just as well use this space to carry all the stuff that didn't fit in the 211-liter boot. That's not much more than in the Toyota Aygo. However, in the Mini you get a double floor, and even when the floor is in its lowest position, there is still some place underneath to store your charging cables. I'd rather have a frunk like in the i3, but the motor is in the front. The cockpit isn't much different from other current Minis. The main difference is the new display where the instrument cluster used to be. There are also more yellow accents, including the start switch, which in other Minis is red. Instead of the stop and start toggle switch, here there is the recuperation switch. You can turn the recuperation down a bit and then use brakes more. Besides the Sport and Green modes, there is also the Green Plus mode. The Green modes limit top speed and slow down reaction to the gas pedal. Also in Green Plus you lose AC, but you gain range. Other differences are in the infotainment system menu, where you can program charging hours, departure time to precondition the car, etc. And something I appreciate in EVs and PHEVs, charging time is clearly displayed on the instrument cluster. Charging status, climate control, etc. can be set from a mobile app. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, BMW and Mini press cars are now handed over to the media without physical contact. A disinfected car is waiting for me at the BMW Press HQ with the key inside. I unlock the car with the app and drive off. The opposite when returning the car. Prices of the Mini Cooper SE start at €32,500. There are several trim levels. This is the L trim for €38,500. It has almost everything. The XL trim adds a panoramic roof and a sport steering wheel. The electric Peugeot 208 starts at €30,500 and has better range. However, taking into account Mini prices and trim, I think the Cooper SE is a sensible proposition for the city. And what do you think about the electric Mini? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like my sarcastic, down-to-earth and possibly even mildly amusing car reviews, subscribe and join me every Friday, or just click one of the links on the screen. Also, don't forget to turn on mobile notifications, press the bell, etc, etc. I started a new channel about the gear I use to film my shoestring budget car reviews. It's called Marek's Gear, so feel free to check it out as well. The link is on the screen. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.